Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Finance Friday. I'm your host, Mr. Davenport, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about how you can graduate from college debt-free or very near debt-free. In this video, I'm going to go over the debt-free roadmap, which is a series of 6 steps that if you follow, will definitely improve your situation and make it so that you pay a lot less for your college education. But before we get into that roadmap, I actually want to just break down the reality of college debt and how it really does shackle so many people later on in life. And I don't mean any disrespect to any of you out there, but if you're 17 or an 18-year-old out there looking to go to college, you unfortunately don't really have much experience when it comes to, managing money, because you probably haven't had a job, or maybe you've just barely had a job, but you really haven't had experience paying for living expenses, paying for rent, paying for food, paying for transportation. And what's unfortunate is that we, as a society, give you this huge burden to take on a lot of debt when you don't really quite have that experience or understand the implications or consequences of it. So that's what I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to go and educate you and tell you what you can expect in terms of the reality of if you kind of just go through this process without really taking a deep look into what you're really signing on the dotted line. So the first thing that we should look at is actually the average college debt. It's $31,000 for an average person in the United States. And I basically just found this on educationdata.org. You can see that currently student loan debt at graduation is an estimated $31,100. And here's the crazy thing about that. The average monthly student loan payment for the class of 2021 will be $391. Now, another thing is I wanted to look at how long does it actually take the average person to repay their student loan? And it looks like, according to this website, it takes the average borrower 20 years to pay off their debt. So let's say you go to college, you graduate when you're 22, then you wouldn't even pay it off until your early 40s. And by that time, you probably already have kids, which is just pretty insane if you think about it. Now, we're going to get into investing a little bit later on the Finance Friday channel, but $391 a month payment is a lot of money to be giving somebody else when you could instead be investing it. So what I just want to quickly show you is a compound interest calculator, which is what we're going to use when we talk about investing in the future. And basically, if you were just to take that $391 payment, which is $4,692 a year, if you were just to take that and invest it in the S&P 500 for the 20 years it would have taken you to pay it off, and you return 8% a year, which is historical rate of return of the S&P 500, you basically would have made $200,000. Like, that's how much money you would have had invested if you instead weren't paying it to your student loan. So it is a pretty substantial amount of money over the long term. Okay, so I hope I didn't scare you off here, and I hope you still do want to go to college, because I definitely think if you do it right, it's worth it. And I think there's a lot of things that you can do that are definitely going to increase your chances of being able to graduate debt-free. And that's what I'm going to go over here on this debt-free roadmap. And really all it is kind of thinking about college through a little bit of a different lens, and thinking about it more through a way of like, okay, how can I be very scrappy? How can I get things for the cheapest possible? And how can I do this a little bit different than all my peers? Okay, so here's my debt-free roadmap. This is what I would, recommend that you follow and what you should do. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to fill out the FAFSA. So FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. It's just an online application where essentially your parents are going to tell the federal government how much money they make. And depending on how much money they make or don't make, you could qualify for grants and also loans. Now, what we're looking for here is actually grants and not loans, because you have to pay loans back, but grants are actually free money that you don't have to pay back, and they're going to be super helpful to you. Okay, from the federal government, you can expect to get the federal Pell Grant. Again, and this is based upon a variety of things. Like, how much you get is dependent on your expected family contributions. That's basically how much money, or how much money your parents do or do not make, the cost of attendance of the school you want to go to, your status as a full-time or part-time student, and your plans to attend a school for a full academic year or less. So the maximum you can get is up to $6,895. So that's a pretty good amount of money that could just be gifted to you right off the bat just for filling out this application. And then every state, to my understanding, also provides some sort of relief as well. Now, I live in California, and so I'm aware of the Cal Grants, which are given to students who, again, have financial need. So California has Cal Grant A and the Cal Grant B, and the amount of money that the Cal Grants can give you is also pretty significant. For Cal Grant A, it's apparently up to $5,700. And I know Cal Grant B, I think, is a little bit more, although I couldn't find what the maximum amount is here. But the point is, the first thing that you need to do is fill out the FAFSA, because that's going to basically, enable you to get free money from the federal and state government. And you really do need to take advantage and take as much free money as you can. Okay, so just one quick thing about this is if you're not documented, if you're an undocumented student, you can still, if you're in California at least, you can fill out the California Dream Act. And if you go to the website California Dream Act, you can see that basically this is another way to apply for the Cal Grant without actually having to have a social security number or to be documented. And so here's basically the eligibility for the California Dream Act. You have to be undocumented, have a valid or expired DACA, be a U visa holder, or have temporary protected status. So if you're undocumented, still fill this out, the California Dream Act, because you can still qualify for the Cal Grant money, which again could be a pretty significant amount of money that is just a grant that's given to you. Okay, the second thing that I highly recommend is for you to go to community college your first 2 years and not go to a public or private 4-year university. And the reason for this is simply just due to cost. It actually turns out that it doesn't really matter where you get your associate's degree. Basically, the first 2 years of your college education, you're going to be taking just general education classes. You're going to be taking chemistry classes, you could be taking calculus classes, you could be taking psychology classes, all these classes that really don't have anything to do with your major. And as a result, it doesn't really matter where you do that at. So why not do it at a community college, which is way cheaper than doing it at a public university or a private university? So you can see that if we go ahead and look at the average cost of community college, according to this research.com, it's about $5,000 per year for in-state students. If you live in California, it's actually a little bit cheaper than that, but that's for just a community college on a per year basis. If we go ahead and look at the average college tuition by state for public and private 4-year universities, you can see that tuition and fees for a public 4-year university for the United States is about $9,000, and for a private 4-year university, is $32,000, which is just a lot of money to go, to be spending to go to school. So just take a moment to look at this objectively. If the first 2 years of your college education don't really matter in terms of, what the college is providing to you, then doesn't it make so much more sense just to do it at a community college? Because on average, it's only going to cost you $5,000 per year. And for a public 4-year university, it's going to be double that. For a private, 4-year university, it's going to be about 6 times that amount. So you might as well do it at a community college, get it out of the way much cheaper. And like I said, if you live in California, it's only $2,000 a year on average. And the great thing about this is that if you do get the Pell Grant or the Cal Grant A, if you live in California, then it's probably going to be very easy for you to get this paid for these first 2 years if you're at a community college by, the state or the federal government. And in many cases, like I said, if you do have financial need, it will be entirely covered, which is great. Your first 2 years of college or half of your college experience, you're going to have no debt. It's going to be paid for by somebody else. Okay, the third and most important hack is you got to live at home. So I know so many of you want to go to college so that you have freedom, you have the college experience. But the bottom line is, if you were to ask most people who have student loans, the college experience wasn't worth the amount of debt that they now have, because of that decision. And when it comes to it, like the average cost to live at home for you is probably going to be $0, because most parents, if they see that their kid is doing a great job, they're going to school, that they're trying the hardest, they're not going to make you pay rent. They're probably not going to make you pay for food. And so it's significantly cheaper than if you were to live, at the university. So if you were to live at a public university dorm, it's going to cost you on average $12,000 a year. And if you were to do that at a private university, it's going to cost a little bit more, $14,000 a year. And again, this is money that if you don't have, you're going to have to take a loan out for, and you're going to have to pay it back. So if you can live at home, and it's just going to save you so much money. It's going to reduce how much you have to pay for college significantly. And I guarantee you that to get the college experience, you don't have to live on campus. There's commuting, there's driving a vehicle to the campus, to a party, if that's what you want to do. But it's definitely not going to be worth it, in my opinion. I think it's going to be way better to live at home. Okay, the fourth thing that I think you should do is transfer to a public university after you get your AA, which is your associate's degree from the community college. And the reason why you should do that to a public university and not a private university is because it's just way cheaper, significantly cheaper. We said that the average 4-year university costs about $9,200 in tuition, and it's about 4 times that amount if you get it from a private university. Okay, and what I like to say is the only difference between your degree and their degree is that you paid way less for it. So it doesn't, like I said, the first 2 years, the general education classes, doesn't matter where you get it. So if you were to take 2 students who graduated ultimately from the same 4-year university, and student 1 went to community college for 2 years and then transferred, versus student 2 who just went to this 4-year university since freshman year, there's really no difference at all with the degree that they get at the end of the 4 years. The only difference is that the person who went to community college paid significantly less than the person who didn't go to college. Okay, the fifth thing that you need to do to graduate debt-free is you need to apply for local scholarships. Okay, and the easiest way to do this is just to contact your career center or contact your counselors. And this is not just for high school students, this is also for college students. What you need to do is really just ask them for a list of scholarships. Say, hey, I'm interested in filling out some scholarships. Do you know of anything local? Is there a list that is generated or that's available that I can look at? And really what you should be doing is trying to fill out as much as you can, because usually there are very few applicants. And I actually remember when I was in high school, there's a scholarship I applied for that only 2 other people applied for. And ironically, I didn't win that scholarship. But the point is, a lot of these scholarships don't have very many people applying to them. And so if you are applying to them, you have pretty good odds that you're going to win a couple of them. And at the end of the day, it's free money, right? It's not attached to a loan. It's not a loan. It's basically grant money, and you could use it to pay for your college expenses. And like I said, most students, I don't even think, are aware that local scholarships exist. And definitely most students don't take advantage or even attempt to fill them out. Now, the really, really cool thing about these is that many of them are very niche, which is great for you. And when I say that, I mean a lot of them have very specific requirements to a demographic that can make it much easier for you to win the scholarship, because it just weeds out a lot of people. So one example I can give you is that when I was in high school, I filled out the scholarship called the Sons of Italy Scholarship. And the only really requirement is that you had to be Italian. And I'm quarter Italian because my grandpa's Italian. So, I was able to fill out the scholarship, and I was able to win that, fortunately. And I basically, it was awarded $1,500 that I didn't have to pay back. And it was very, very helpful to me. So the cool thing is a lot of them are very niche, which is a great thing. And what I really recommend that you do is that you should make filling out scholarships your job, because really, it's very well maybe that you can make $50 plus an hour if you calculate the return on the time that you spent. And so for me, I filled out about 30 scholarships when I was in high school. I won 7 of them. So I won about $4,500. And basically, I went ahead and calculated how much time it took me to fill those out. And it was about 45 hours. So I was basically working at $100 an hour just to fill out scholarships, which as a high school student, I don't think you're really going to be able to find a job that's making, $20 an hour, let alone $100 an hour. So make that your job. Okay, the sixth and final thing that you should be doing to graduate debt free is that you need to get a job and you need to start saving money. So ideally, you get a job in high school. Junior or senior year is a perfect time to get a job where you're working 10 hours a week. That's a couple days a week, 3-4 hour shifts. And I promise you, it's not too hard. It's going to build character. It's going to build responsibility. And the great thing about going to, again, community college your first 2 years is that you have time during that time to actually, make quite a bit of money and save that money for when you're going to transfer to the 4-year university. Because, like I said, if you do qualify for the Pell Grant or the Cal Grant A, if you're in California, it's very likely that you can get all of your community college paid for. And basically what that means is all the money that you're making during this first 2 years, none of it's going to paying for college, and all of it's going to saving the money for when you transfer. And if you really are diligent and you spend those 2 years saving money, you might even have enough money to pay for your junior year, up front once you get there, because you've been saving money. Now, like I said, filling out scholarships is the ideal job due to its return on your time. I doubt there's really anything else out there that's going to be able to make as much money per hour. So I'd recommend making that your job if you can. And also, this is a great time during your first year of college to start some side hustle. What I'd recommend is find something that you really enjoy doing and see if you can find a way to make money out of doing it. It's probably going to be that in the beginning, maybe the first 6 months or year, you might not make anything. But, from my experience, I found that if you do things that you're passionate about, somehow the money is going to follow. So start a side hustle. I think it's a good idea. Okay, so we just went over the debt-free roadmap. And what I want to do is break down kind of the pathway for a normal student versus the Finance Friday student. So let's go through the normal student first. The normal student attends a public 4-year university starting their freshman year. They live on campus. They don't apply for scholarships, and they don't get a job for the first 2 years. And yeah, basically what I did is I just did some calculations based upon the numbers of attending a 4-year university, living on campus. And basically, on average, the degree cost would be $84,000 to get that degree. Now, some of you might go, wow, that seems a lot less or a lot more, but that's just using the numbers that I found quickly on the internet. So, it could be plus or minus some. The point is not necessarily the amount that this is. The point is for you to compare it to what the Finance Friday student would have to pay if they followed the debt-free plan. So let's look at the Finance Friday student. So the Finance Friday student goes to community college, and then they transfer to a public 4-year university after their 2 years, getting their associate's degree. They live at home for all 4 years. They apply and win scholarships, and then they also work every year. And basically, I calculate again using the same thing for how much it costs to go to a community college, how much money you save living at home, and the degree cost is only $28,000. So you can see it's basically a quarter of the cost, and that's just from following some of those steps that I laid out here. And this $28,000 would be before you actually factor in things like whether or not you got a Cal grant or a Pell grant, whether or not you won any scholars, whether or not you actually worked or not. The point is, just by taking some of these very simple acts, just by thinking a little bit different than the normal student, you can significantly reduce how much it's going to cost you to go to college. And as a result, you're not going to be the statistic that is, you have $30,000 of debt when you graduate. It's going to take you 20 years to pay off your student loans. So that's all I have for you today. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, leave a comment, and that's it. Have a good day. Bye.